It's me again, so you would have seen me a minute ago. I'm a last-minute redeployment into the moderating slot, but thanks everyone for coming along and joining us at Abu Dhabi Finance Week. I'm Chris Hughes, the Chief Editor here at Finance Week, and on behalf of ADGM, we just want to say thank you to everyone for all of your support and encouragement and getting involved in this little gathering that we're putting together that's over time becoming a bigger gathering. We have a very short interview today. It's a preview of this. So it's a paper that we've created with ADQ for Abu Dhabi Finance Week. It's called A New Era of Capital Flows in a Polycentric World. And one of the very bright minds that have helped us to put this paper together is Dr. Jaap Kalkman, Group Chief Investment Officer at ADQ, and we're going to preview this piece over the next few minutes. So, Dr. Kalkman, welcome, first of all.
Thank you
for coming. A new era of capital flows in a polycentric world. Polycentric, what does that mean?
It means many centers. Well, let me explain that a little bit. So, our view is that in the let's say the past couple of decades, the world was relatively simple, but it's changing. So it was relatively simple in the sense that there were a few centers of developed nations in North America, the US, Japan, and Asia, Europe by itself. And they generated a lot of capital, and they used that capital to deploy it in the developing world. Whenever there was money surplus in the developing world, they would invest in US treasuries and the like to bring that money back. And so the capital flows were relatively simple. That has changed. So instead of 3 centers, there are around 25 sizable centers, including Abu Dhabi, where money is flowing in and money is flowing out. So that's basically the essence of the paper.
Three centers to 25, did you say?
Yeah, 25. I mean, you can, of course, depending on how high you set the bar, but
over the space of how long has that shift happened?
I would say this has happened over the last 15, 20 years.
Okay. And is it speeding up over time?
It's currently speeding up.
Yeah.
Actually, the question is where it's going to go, right? Because I think that question is open.
Yeah. That's what we're here to try and figure out.
Exactly.
So ADQ, headline partner of Abu Dhabi Finance Week, and thanks to ADQ for doing that. ADQ are a very good example. So ADQ are investing in a domestic economy in order to grow that economy. We call it the Falcon economy. Are we seeing generally, we're seeing that in Abu Dhabi, but are we seeing an increased reinvestment in domestic economies? How does that all look in a more global context?
Yeah, I think, I mentioned very simply we had 3 centers, now we have 25. There's, of course, much more to it. And one of the aspects is that a lot of countries started investing in themselves, right? Rather than putting your money in treasuries, actually you invest in infrastructure, new hospitals, power plants, new airports, ports, and Abu Dhabi is an excellent example of that, right? They have poured literally hundreds of billions in new infrastructure here in Abu Dhabi. And one way of seeing ADQ is we were established, or we were born, because they needed someone to manage that infrastructure, right? Critical infrastructure. And so we were appointed to manage this infrastructure. We're supposed to develop it, to grow it, and to internationalize it.
Yeah. Well, you can see the results of your work every day, from Etihad to the great companies that are growing here in Abu Dhabi. You can see that it's really working. The next question I have is around importing and exporting capital. Okay, so the UAE, so many people today have come here with the idea of fundraising from Abu Dhabi for various initiatives across the world. But we are not just an exporter of capital. We're an importer and exporter. What are the key benefits and challenges of being both an importer and an exporter of capital?
Yeah. Well, The benefits are, I think, relatively clear. First of all, you create a whole new industry, right? So you could see ADGM as the regulator of most of that capital flow, right? So you create an industry, it helps diversify the economy of the UAE. So that's a benefit. It's beneficial that you have yourself access to capital in an easier way. You can develop your capital market. So those are all the benefits. Of course, there are risks as well, right? And the big risk is a change in those capital flows, right? Capital, as His Excellency Mohammed Suwaidi mentioned, capital likes to be loved, right? And how do you love capital? You give it stability, you give it predictability, and all of these things. So Abu Dhabi and the UAE will need to continue to work to keep that trust that we have received from the international community to make sure that capital keeps on flowing so that we can redeploy that capital outside the UAE as well.
Yep. ADQ, follow-up question on that. ADQ, are you an importer or exporter of capital? A little bit of both. What does that all look like?
We're actually both. Yeah, we attract capital, we attract FDI, we attract financing for our projects here, but we are also committed to grow our companies and to help other countries develop through that, right? And of course, in a financially responsible way. Yeah. But we're investing a lot of that capital that we receive also internationally.
Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have a very short interview today, but I have a couple of follow-up questions, and then I'm just going to do a little summary of the report. So ultimately, we're at the Abu Dhabi Economic Forum. It's at Abu Dhabi Finance Week. Finance Week's divided into 4 thematic days, and day 1 is all about Abu Dhabi's economy. So we're here to talk about the Falcon economy. How do we make capital stick in Abu Dhabi?
I think it's important to build on the theme of capital needs to be loved. It's important for Abu Dhabi and for the UAE to continue to grow the economy, the bigger the more stable, to continue to diversify the economy. So it's very important that we continue to build new sectors and build out the existing sectors other than oil and gas. Yeah. It's also very important to make sure that regulation is as clear as you can have it, right? Predictability is very important, and to have institutions like ADGM, for example, and to have a rule of law here that people can trust, people know what they're putting their money with, those kind of things are really the most important to make the capital stick.
Well, the theme of Abu Dhabi Finance Week this year is welcome to the capital of capital. And as you heard from our chairman's speech earlier, what we're trying to do is define what capital means. And you've got the monetary capital, yes, it's great, but legal capital, environmental capital, cultural capital, technological capital, all these other aspects of how you could define the word capital are what makes an economy grow. And again, the capital of capital being the growth driver of the Falcon economy. So, folks, over the next 4 days, you're going to be able to find a new era of capital flows in a polycentric world. This is just a very short briefing on the paper. In about 90 minutes from now, there's going to be a large round table set up with a whole bunch of experts that are going to debate the findings in this paper. But again, hopefully you can pick up the paper, hopefully you can learn from it, hopefully you can contribute to the conversation going forward. It's very, very important to us that members of our community have a say in these things. And I'll finish up by saying thank you to Dr. Kalkman for joining us, and thank you to ADQ for being such a fabulous partner of Abu Dhabi Finance Week. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Chris.